Calling all builders. Welcome to Snowflake's 5-minute demo dare, where contestants race against the clock to demo the latest and greatest Snowflake products and features. Our judges will rate the demos based on 3 criteria. How ambitious is the demo? Is the demo useful and replicable? And finally, how engaging and interactive was the demo? Each category is worth 5 points, and demos can rack up to a total of 15 points for a perfect score. And now, your host, developer advocate Felipe Hoffa.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. I'm Felipe Hoffa, developer advocate for Snowflake, and today we have a new episode of the 5-minute demo there. Will it snow or will it flake? We will know in 1 second. Our contestant for today is Ricky Thomas. Ricky Thomas, welcome to the show. Where's Ricky Thomas? On this side, on this side. Ricky Thomas, there you are.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm very happy to have you here and very proud that you decided to take the challenge. Ricky, tell us a little more about you.
So my name's Ricky. I'm the CTO and look after products at Streamkap. Previous to this, I've done all sorts. I've had a batch ETL platform, full BI stack, and other businesses and so on. So, but generally a history in streaming.
Serial data entrepreneur person. That's awesome. And what is Streamkap all about?
Yeah, so including what I was just talking about in terms of my background and my co-founder, we came from a batch ETL background. And so what we realized was people wanted streaming, but streaming is quite difficult to do generally. And so Streamkap is a streaming ETL platform, but we're trying to make it as easy as the experience people have had elsewhere with the other sort of ETL tools out there to date. So the idea is Streamkap is simpler, faster, but also a similar experience you might have had before.
Simpler and faster. I like it. So for anyone that's tuning for the first time to our 5-minute demo there, we bring people here. It's all about the art of the demo. We rate you of how useful, how entertaining, and how ambitious your demo is. And we have 3 judges that will help us rate your demo. We also have a live audience. They are free to ask us questions, tell us what they think, applaud you, be here with you. Let me welcome the 3 judges today. Who do we have? We have Vino, we have Daniel, and we have Gilberto. How are you, judges?
I'm doing fantastic. 2 thumbs up. Feeling good.
Feeling good. Gilberto.
Yeah, doing great. Excited to see this demo today.
And Vino, judging for the first time.
Excited to be here today and super stoked to see what Ricky has to show us today.
Exactly. So, Ricky, what's your demo about today in 10 seconds?
Yeah, so the idea is to stream real-time data from a Postgres database through to Snowflake using Snowpipe Streaming. So sub-second latency in effect.
I love Snowpipe Streaming because, as you say, you might deliver like immediate results. And now, before we start the timer, everyone would love to know how much do you want to accomplish in these 5 minutes?
So we're going to do exactly what I just said. So we're going to stream data from Postgres to Snowflake. The bits missing will just be the credential setup from Postgres and Snowflake, but that's a minute job normally. And we it should be fine. It should work, and it should be simple to do.
Good. My question to the judges: what do you expect to see today with this description, Vino?
Well, he just said that he comes from the batch world and he's trying to make streaming easy for the batch ETL folks. I'm like, that's exactly me. So I'm super stoked to see what he has today. Like, what do you mean you make streaming easier and faster? Let's show it and see it.
How do we move from batch to streaming? Gilberto, what do you expect to see today?
Yeah, actually similar to Vino, Ricky mentioned a batch ETL background and how most folks want to do streaming, but it's really difficult. So I'm typically looking for easy of use, but I also want to look at speed in your technology.
Streaming is all about speed to results. And Daniel, what are you expecting to see today?
Yeah, I mean, so Ricky's really put together this to really show off, based on what he said, ease of use, right? So he said it takes about a minute of the 5 minutes to set it up and it's good to go. So I'm ready to see that. I think this is, based on what he described, it's going to be very relevant. People want their data faster. And so that sub-second latency, I'm going to be looking for that. He said it's there. I'm going to be looking for that. And so I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And speaking of streaming, everyone is welcome to participate in the live stream. Sometimes people think, oh, everything is pre-baked. This cannot be a live demo. Test us, ask us questions, be part of this. So Ricky, before we start the timer, anything that you want to set up of what before we start?
So I think everything should be fine. I don't expect anything to break. But there's always a first. But no, I think everything's fine, and we can start whenever you're ready.
Excellent. Then let's start the timer right now.
Okay, so let's start with the app. Here I've got a list of different data sources we can choose from. We're going to start with Postgres. And as I mentioned, we've got connectors set up already. Before I configure the connector in Streamkap, I'm just going to show you the demo table we're going to use and the fact that it doesn't exist yet in Snowflake at all. And so let's go and create a connector. So as you can see, this should be all very quite straightforward, the same sort of details you're used to. You can leave most of these things as defaults. We do allow connecting by SSH tunnel, for example, something that people are used to. And a schema, the Postgres schema is usually public, and a demo table. So let's see if that adds the connector.
Come on, connector. I love tempting the demo gods.
I know, there you are. Okay, so the connector is now initializing, and that will connect to the Postgres source. There is no data in the source, and I'll show you that in a second. In a normal situation, if there's existing data, it will snapshot it and backfill it first, just like you're used to in the batch world. So here I'm creating a pipeline. This is connecting the source to Snowflake. So I'm going to click Next. I'm choosing my demo table. We do support real-time transformations, but we're not going to demo that today. I'm going to give it a name and click Save. Now, the first thing this is going to do is just initialize the table. So let's wait for that. Okay. And you can see the app's very simple. We have a status coming back here. It's active. At the moment, 0 milliseconds. There's a latency because there's no data. I've now got the table created with 0 records. So next is we're going to have a look at the source. I'm using dbeaver here to connect to Postgres. I'm just going to show you there's no records in there. As I mentioned, it would have backfilled and snapshotted first, but for this, I'm just going to insert one record just to use it as mock data. So rather than run a batch script here, I'm using dbeaver's generate mock data. Sorry, I'll just show you for sure again, just for sake of clarity. That's now got one value in it. And then I'm going to generate some demo data. So got example here, 10,000 records, but let's make that 100,000 or 1 million. And we can do different batch sizes. This obviously is running from my laptop. It'll work wherever else, but let's just go with that. So that's now inserting data, as you can see. So from our experience and with our customers, Snowflake supports significantly much higher throughput than this. We have customers terabytes streaming very fast. But as you can see, the data is now streaming into Postgres. So now let's go back to Snowflake and see if data has started arriving. Okay, so there you are, 17,000 records. Let's go back to dbeaver and just try to get an idea. Roughly, we just passed 25,000 records. And we're at 23. So that is showing you the end-to-end streaming already. I'm not sure how much time I've got left, but let's go back to the app. and look at the connectors.
We have 1 minute left, and records are streaming beautifully.
Good. So the metrics in our app are real time. Sometimes they take a few seconds to update. It's taking averages across a time frame. So in a second, we should be able to see a latency score. That's last event of 440. There are 477 milliseconds is the current latency. And similarly, we should see it on the pipeline. Now, the difference is with the pipeline, it's actually sped up since we did that. It's 214 milliseconds. This takes into account the end-to-end time delivery. So from the time we read it to the time we deliver it to Snowflake. And that's it. The only other things I think I failed to mention was we support schema drift evolution as well with Snowpipe Streaming. And that's the demo over.
Beautiful. Let's call in the timer with 30 seconds left. Excellent. I have to say, that was impressive, Ricky. You finished well within time. I don't know what judges will think about ambition, but the easiness, I'm impressed. But now it's not the time for my comments, but for the judges. Who is going to unmute first to tell us what they thought?
Yeah. So overall, I would say this was very well done. The relevance was very high, I think the ability to have streaming data from Postgres directly into Snowflake is key. You showed that it is very easy to do with your platform. So that's awesome. Yep. I would say overall very, very good. Gilberto, what did you think?
Yeah, I mentioned I was going to be looking for speed, and you definitely demonstrated that. And when you upped it to 100,000 or 1,000,000 rows, I got really nervous and worried for you, but it was pretty cool. And then you showed the latency, which was, I think, 477 milliseconds. So under half a second. That's incredible. And it was good to see the count upping in Snowflake as the data was being streamed. So really enjoyed it.
Good.
Yes. And Vino.
Yep, I have a very similar point too. I feel like this was super relevant because literally every data person that you talk to, we're always doing CDC all the time. And then just the fact that in 2 minutes, even less than 2 minutes, it's probably took just, setting up the connector and your data is there in Snowflake, right? It's just like you said, simplicity and, how faster we could do this. And then you kind of checked off both the boxes. And yeah, engaging. I was also nervous a bit when you were adding 100,000 and 1,000,000 rows. I'm like, we've got only 5 minutes. But then it was cool to see, with super sub-second latency come up, like the data records come up on Snowflake. So well done on that.
Yes. Before we go to the live Q&A, any questions from the judges to Ricky?
I think I have a question. Like, Ricky, tell me maybe if I've not, captured it properly, because when we were looking at it, when you were showing the records that were being streamed, the mock data that was being generated in Postgres, let's say we saw about 26,000 rows. And then when we come back to Snowflake, we see about 23,000 rows. And I would call it maybe there was a second or more latency. But it's also probably because, we were switching over to different apps and everything. And there's also this like a human component involved. But then in the app, when you were showing, I guess it was about 400 milliseconds at first, and then it eventually even dropped out to 200. So how was that being calculated?
Yeah, so the latency in the app is the time from us reading from the source and giving it to Snowflake. The delay, which sometimes is about 10 seconds, beyond that is Snowflake. So there's a delay. Usually it's a few seconds, sometimes 10 to 20. The reality is Snowflake performs best if you're just streaming data at it, because I think there's a delay in terms of, if you send one record, it might take 10 seconds, simply because it's got a batch setting that kind of picks up the records. So there is a 5 to 10 second extra delay sometimes, and that's Snowflake, not us. Yeah, but overall end-to-end streaming in, like, say, 10 seconds then.
Great question. Gilberto, Daniel?
That was actually going to be my question too, so I'm glad you asked me.
It's not always like that. So it's actually sometimes it's like 1 second, but occasionally you see a small delay.
Yeah, same.
Then,
So it's very cool to see. Yeah, do all the judges have their scores in?
yes. So let's, before we get the final score, let's go to some live questions because this is a live show and people are really intrigued. Of course, Eric Velez, before you started, said, "First time, changed my world." Let's see if you did. Arish says, "First timer, the demo was intriguing. We'll spend some time to learn Streamkap." Nice job, Ricky. We have friends. But by the way, I saw your notebook time. Where are you in the world right now? 8 p.m.
Oh, I'm actually in Bulgaria with the kids skiing. So
Bulgaria.
we
Wow.
did the Alps this year to teach them so they can have private lessons every day in a cheaper ski resort. So,
Nice. At Snowflake, we love the snow, so that's
yeah.
great. And thanks for staying late with us.
Nice one.
Dinesh want to say awesome. Thanks for the quick demo. You press them. Uma Chandar, MBA, has a question. Any restriction in the number of columns that impacts latency, structured versus unstructured data latency?
So in a normal situation, yes, but Streamkap's, let's say offering is everything is sub-second. So if more compute or power is needed to get to that, then we just give that to you as part of the subscription. Unstructured data is a little bit more complex, does take a bit more compute. If it's things like Mongo, it does a certain level of that out of the box. If it's beyond that, we actually run Apache Flink under the hood as well, and we can do streaming ETL of any complexity, and we do that for our customers as well. So there's no issue there. Either way, it's our job to make sure it's sub-second without worrying about the maintenance.
So, yes, that was a transformation step that we didn't go into too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so if there's transform jobs available, you can choose them and create them to add them to the pipeline.
Excellent. Seema, sorry for my pronunciation. Seema Karthi Nagendra wants to know, how do you handle updates on source? A new record is created in Snowflake, or does it update the existing record in Snowflake?
So so Snowpipe Streaming is append-only mode, so therefore it will create a new record. You can do different methods of ingestion through Snowflake, but Snowpipe Streaming is append-only at the moment. We separately handle schema evolution through JBC in effect. And you've got a couple of options with the append. So we add on additional meta columns, including timestamps, allowing you to create views very easily to pull back the latest final record. And we've done blogs and so on. It's not part of today, but on using dynamic tables from Snowflake as well, which has come out recently. And a lot of our customers are using that just to simplify the transformation process, and including from DBT. As well as the fact you can set a target lag on dynamic tables. At the moment, it's a minute, but apparently it's going to be reduced. And this will also, you can just include the dedupe script as part of those dynamic tables, for example. It's very simple. And then last thing to add is we see sort of 50-50. A lot of people actually want to keep the historical records. They initially sometimes say no, and then they realize they want that change history. If you don't want it, you can just do a simple daily scheduled job to delete all the old records. And if you do want it, then it's useful for auditing.
Yeah, it would be really cool to see how we add that dynamic table at the end to merge all the records.
Yeah, that would take. If I added it in, I had so much time. I could have done one in 10 seconds.
Yes, but by the way, now that we have time, can you show us the data in Snowflake? I want, because we saw the count, but we didn't see the actual records, and it would be cool to see that.
Yeah. You want to see actual records? Yeah.
Yes. Top 10. Oh, top.
So,
instead of like.
Here is some record metadata that just happens as part of streaming. Here's the dummy data that was generated. And here's the additional meta fields that I talked about. So we have here the actual source, Postgres timestamp. This is in milliseconds. It's easy. It's just to make sure pure accuracy. This is the timestamp that Streamkap was handling it. If a record is deleted at the source, we will mark it as deleted as well. So that, again, you can do your dedupes and get the final records and so on. Okay.
Nice.
Offset is obviously just offset for the records. Yeah.
Yes. So yes, people can see that actually the data is there, and you have the extra metadata.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, Mudapuram Mahesh, does Streamkap maintain low latency for increasing data volumes?
Yes, yep. Trying to think how to answer that. We do have auto scaling in place as well, but in general, these are just easy tweaks, like number of tasks or compute power and so on. So again, it's our job to keep whatever volume you've got, whatever transformations needed, that kind of sub-second latency, and that's what we do.
I love you assuming all the responsibility to keep the speed
Well, that's
up.
I think batch is really easy, right? Because it's not streaming. It's not, sorry, I'll take that back. It's not really easy, but it's easier because it's not real-time streaming. And we're just like, well, how do we make this so easy people can just drop in, replace it? And so things like SSH tunnel support and the familiar app interface that we might get from the other ETL vendors, this is the sort of thing we're going for.
Yeah. By the way, I'm not a judge, but I have to give you a high score for how many questions you're getting. People are really interested now that you saw the demo. Parthivan wants to know how to make sure the data quality at the time of latency and how to validate that the data is not missed. So I trust you, Pat. How do I trust you?
Yeah, so I try to think. So to validate the data is not missed, we have a thing in streaming. There's a thing called there's different ways of handling errors, but how we handle it is a dead letter queue. This means if the message can't be processed, it doesn't discard it. It doesn't just error. We keep the pipeline running and we'll move it to a dead letter queue. We have engineers 24/7 that monitor that as well. We don't yet have a way in the app to reprocess those messages. Like, for example, if you fix some dud data and reprocess, but we'll be adding that back in. For at the moment, that would go to a dead letter queue. However, what we find is nothing's going there. If a new customer signs up with a use case that we haven't seen, this is kind of unheard of with Postgres and so on, but let's just say that happens. We will run the full snapshot, backfill, streaming during the trial. If there's any issues with data typing and so on, we will discover them during that process. We will fix it immediately. And then from then onwards, we know that will run. We don't have any of our existing customers are having messages go to dead letter queue at all. It's just, it's kind of unheard of now.
Excellent question, Parthivan.
I'm not sure I answered the data quality at a time of latency. I wasn't quite sure what you meant by that.
Yeah, but Parthivan can ask follow-up questions if he's not satisfied, but I love that answer. And a LinkedIn user wants to know how does the conversion work for the query? Does this happen in the backend? I like that. Personally, I would move the conversion to Snowflake on a dynamic table. That's a future demo here. But if I want to do it in Streamkap, how does that work?
So if they mean as in a transformation conversion, do you think?
Yeah, that's my guess. It's like if I want to transform data in that magic step that you offered, that we get to see.
So certain transformations we will handle as part of the, in fact, we're running Kafka under the hood. We will handle that in the pipeline. These may be simple, what we call SMTs, so simple transformations. If it's a more complex one, we'll route it through to Flink, Apache Flink, and then back into the destination that way. And you're right, most people are still running all their transformations within Snowflake. There is scenarios where it makes some sense to do it in the pipeline, and this is usually comes from a MongoDB as being a source, for example, and really trying to change the complete structure, or if a particular column is nested within nested within nested, then it starts getting very difficult and complex or expensive to run in a data warehouse, and so they bring that out.
So how do you deal with very complex variants? And yes, Eric wants to say that his interest has peaked. Thank you for sharing this platform. And we have 1 more minute for questions. So we have hellos from India. And let me choose this question. If the connection drops, how is streaming handled?
So there's a few things. So when you set up, if anyone's doing any ETL, you probably already have this set up already. But when you set up Postgres and so on, you set a timestamp a time duration for holding the log. This might be 3 days, it might be 7 days, and so on. But the whole purpose of that log is to be able to replay the database as such, any issues. But it's the same principle. So from a source point of view, if we get disconnected from the source, it could be a network issue, right? Rather than you or us, it could be an Amazon issue. We will just keep retrying, and we will pick up from the last place of the log. So that's not an issue at all. Let's just say now Snowflake has an issue, And we've got the data and we can't deliver to Snowflake. And we have had that. We've had, messages come on saying, back off, you're trying to put in too much data. And it's temporary. But at that point, we will keep retrying, and we hold that data until we can deliver it. The time, now, data could get lost if a ridiculous amount of time goes by, but by default, we're holding the data for up to 7 days. You can change that up and down. But the idea would be, let's just say it goes off for 5 minutes. Within that second of it coming back, it will start delivering again. However, if we hold some data, like I say, a few days, then it allows you to have an outage on a Friday, come back in on Monday, and just replay from restart from the last position. It's not going to happen in production, maybe, but it might happen in a dev database or something like this.
Beautiful. You can take your weekend off and data is protected. And we will not have time for the questions I have from Parthivan, Harnarin, Uma, Dinesh, Sima Kurthi, Sesu. But these comments are live on LinkedIn, so Ricky and the Streamkap team can go and answer those questions. Let me welcome back the judges for our final score. Daniel.
Yes. So, final score again. So this score is based off of 3 categories. How ambitious were you? What is the relevance of the demo and the product that you have as it relates to the data industry? And third, engagement. How engaging were you personally as a presenter and the overall demo that you've done? So our combined score today.
Can I add one note before you say the score?
Yes.
Because this is not an Uber ride. We tell our judges that 4 is perfect. 5 is for something that we have never seen before. That's how we can have a ranking and invite the top demo presenters to the live finale. So if anyone wants to bring us a cool demo, you might be a Snowflake customer, user, employee, partner. If you want to bring us a cool demo, send us your submission so we could have you live on the grand finale. This is open for everyone. Don't worry if you don't see only 5 as the scores. That's by design. So Daniel is going to deliver the final score for today.
Yes. So on our relevance, so it was very relevant. At streaming, it's often challenging to implement, but the demo that you showed really reduced that complexity and made it very simple, both to understand and to actually implement. And then engagement. It was very engaging. We really liked the loads of mock data and consistent count updates. So that was very cool to see. So drum roll, please. The total score, 10.7. Very good score. Very good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much.
Incredibly relevant. And with that, I invite everyone to participate in this. Thank you, Ricky, for taking this risk with us. You can go enjoy your night now, enjoy the snow, and thanks everyone for tuning in and participating. And with that, I'm Felipe Hoffa. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Want to be featured on our show? Submit a video of you successfully completing a functioning demo within 5 minutes. Demos must be technical, original, and showcase existing Snowflake features.